following podcast is for informational purposes only. The contents of this podcast do not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Take responsibility for your own decisions, consult with the proper professionals, and do your own research.
If you ask me, I cannot name you like the second one, which do the same stuff which Graph do. And for us, it was like a no-brainer to launch a Graph indexer node because we are trying to get like those solutions which we believe would be like the essential part of the coming Web3 world.
We're like astronauts floating in the space of time.
Welcome to the GRTIQ podcast. Today I'm speaking with Alex Falko, co-founder and chief financial officer at Citadelone, an indexer at the Graph. The Citadelone marketing team is very active within the Graph community, so it's likely that you've already met members of the team. My conversation with Alex covers a wide range of topics, from his opinion on the people of Russia's current attitude and perspective on crypto, his background in the diamonds and gold business, his vision for the staking economy and its potential impact on the world, and how Citadelone aims to be much more than just an indexer at the Graph. As always, we started the conversation by talking about Alex's background.
I have a degree in law. I finished the Russian State University back in 2005. But actually, I always knew that I will never be a lawyer or kind of related to the law. And what fascinated me all the time, it was like more social science, like economics, like history. That's why after graduating from the university, I decided, to change the area of my interest, and I did a very unusual thing. I went to Africa and I had a kind of gold and diamonds business in there. And what fascinated me a lot, it was like gold. And I've read a lot of stuff about like monetary history and the gold's role in it. And actually, that's how I got involved. I'm front running a bit, but that's how I got involved in crypto, because I've jumped into the space quite early in 2013. And when I found out about like Bitcoin, it was like, for me, it was like really a wow moment, because it had a lot in common with the concept of gold, and I understood it very, very, easy and quickly. And I want to say thanks to Andreas Antonopoulos, who was like the greatest popularizer of like crypto back then in 2013. I watched a couple of YouTube videos or podcasts with him, and I believe I saw them all, and that's how I got into the crypto space. And since then, I'm a full-time crypto guy. That's kind of my background.
You're joining me from Russia, and I'm always curious to learn what the attitude of the people from where I'm interviewing my guests are towards crypto. So what are the attitudes of the people of Russia towards crypto right now?
Like Russia is a very, complicated country in a lot of meanings. Like crypto is officially, it's not forbidden, but it's not allowed in that case. Like the most weird thing which you can explain how the things are going here in Russia is that we don't have legal crypto exchange here. Like you have a Coinbase or Gemini in US, or like in basically any other part of the world, you can find like a legal crypto exchange. And here in Russia, we don't have one. But it does not stop people from getting involved in crypto. And to be honest, people are very, very passionate about crypto in Russia. Everybody, from the people I'm connected to, everybody is aware of crypto. Everybody is holding crypto. Everybody is, making like payments to everyone else, like everybody's talking NFTs. And this thing which fascinates me about crypto in general, because like people from all over the world, from like different, how to call that, layers of society, it does not matter if they are rich or like just, a regular kind of guy. They are very passionate about crypto. And I believe that we have one of the best crypto communities here in Russia in general. It's like regarding the community level. But on the government level, I believe like Russian authorities, they are very, slow and proactive, because like they are taking some steps only after they realize that they they are forced to do that. So that's how things here in Russia.
Your background in Africa and the diamond and gold business is very unique. I've never interviewed somebody with that background. And yet you had the exposure to gold and diamonds, and then you got involved with crypto, and you went with Bitcoin, presumably, and crypto over gold and diamonds. So I guess my question is, what did you see in crypto, and particularly Bitcoin, that made you think I ought to get involved in that industry?
You're talking to an old Bitcoiner. So for me, it was a no-brainer, simply out of the fact that like in economy, you can take basically anything in the world and you can put a kind of a framework on it. Like if something has like three features, like a store of value, a unit of account, and a mean of transfer, and then like five features like transferability, tangibility, it should be divisible, it should be tangible, transferable, and unique, And you can take those kinds of framework, and if something, I mean, like literally anything fits into this framework, then it's money, right? And Bitcoin was like the perfect example, and everybody was talking about that, and compared like traditional fiat system with like gold, and gold was like losing in terms of transferability and divisibility, but like it was much more better as a store of value, etc. And Bitcoin, it has kind of the best out of two worlds. So when you found out like this kind of assets, it was really like amazing back then, because again, it was like a time when you had just Bitcoin, even before Ethereum. And that fascinated me a lot. And I was immediately all in.
You have a strong background in finance, and wanted to ask you're obviously the CFO for an indexer, Citadelone, who operates at the Graph. But before we talk about your indexer operations and your role at Citadelone, I wanted to get your opinion on centralized finance versus decentralized finance. So how do you think about the difference between those two things and the impact decentralized finance can have in the world?
It's another point why I've joined crypto. Actually, like I believe like all the governments in the world are awful in the meaning that they are controlling your finance. And it's about like banking system in general, because like you are working hard to get some, something, and you need to save that. And of course, like the most obvious choice for a regular guy is to go and to put those money in the bank. But as we know from our history, contemporary history, there are a lot of like examples when people cannot get what they earned. Like Greece is the best example. It happened to them back in 2014 or 15. I don't remember exactly. Like Cyprus is another example, and you can find a lot of others like in Venezuela and so on and so on. So like your money, it's like not your money, and it's like for me, it's just nonsense. And that's why I believe like crypto in general, it allows like the perfect opportunity to control your own money, like in the way you're controlling your information right now. Like before, I don't know, check history. Like in the medieval ages, government controlled information. It had a monopoly, right? And eventually it lost it to the printing press. So my idea is that today, the same process is happening with crypto space, when like a monetary monopoly from governments on the money, it is changing with crypto. And actually, like it's the technology which allowed this kind of transfer. And for sure, I believe like that DeFi is the future, and eventually it will become even more, how to say, bigger than the legacy finance. I believe we can call that this way, legacy, right?
Citadelone, as I mentioned, is an indexer at the Graph, but you do a lot more than just index. So what can you tell us about Citadelone?
Thank you for your question. So Citadel, first of all, let me give you like a small, idea of how we grow up. We launched our first proof of stake network back in 2018, and it was Tezos blockchain. Actually, it was like the first one which launched proof of stake, and so we almost immediately launched a Tezos node. It was more kind of experiment back then because we understood that proof of stake is like the next big thing to go, but as it happens, you realize that the technology is here only like after it is here. So after that, we launched some other networks, and quite quickly we realized that the missing piece of infrastructure is like a useful tool to manage like all this stuff, right? Because if you even today you will look at the crypto space, it is very fragmented, meaning that you have let's call like wallets for Ethereum compatible networks, Ethereum itself, and like BSC, like Matic, and so on, right? And you have like other types of wallets for independent networks like Cosmos. You need Kepler. If you are using Solana, you need Solid, or they have a cool wallet which is called Phantom. Then you need another wallet solution for Polkadot, and so on and so on. And so for investor, it's really difficult to keep track of all his assets, because you should maintain some kind of like Excel spreadsheet and try to understand what is going on there. And it's really inconvenient. So we decided that we may build something which will satisfy ourselves, and we can make it a market product. So like Citadel, it's coming to the very beginning of the question. I would describe Citadel as an unusual product or project, and it consists of several key concepts. So first of all, we are validators, and we are running about 20-25 nodes on various networks, proof of stake networks. It's one of our key concepts. Then you may call us like a wallet and the staking platform, because we allow people to make some kind of asset management on our platform, to keep track of what's going on with their portfolio. And it's like a cross-chain solution with like advanced functionality like staking. So like it's like concept number 2. Concept number 3, like we are a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, meaning that we have a coin which is based for now Binance Smart Chain, BSC based. So this coin is like rewarded for those who are delegating on our nodes and with our platform. So if you're like a staker, it makes sense for you to come on Citadel, and you can actually delegate on any validator. We're not limiting our users to delegating on our nodes only. We have full list in every network which we support. And but if you will delegate some part of your funds on our nodes, you will get an XCD token for that, right? And in future, we will introduce governance, and in accordance with our tokenomics, like as soon as we are running nodes, we have a real revenue stream, because we are charging a fee for doing so, right? And in accordance with our tokenomics, 50% of those fees go into the community pool, and actually XCT stakers can create a kind of governance proposal and vote to get those funds back into their pockets. So we call it securitized cash flow token, because in that sense, XCT, it's kind of a claim right for a broader basket of crypto assets, right? So the third concept, we are a DAO, and finally we are launching extensions. What is extensions? I really like Web3 in general, because I believe it's like a cool kind of evolution of internet itself. But in many aspects, it's not very, useful technology. I believe that it's the next step, but it should be, customized for a broader adoption. And what we allow to do, because we are a completely non-custodial platform, we are not holding private keys of our users. You can compare us to MetaMask or any other non-custodial platform in that sense. But what we are doing, we are integrating a lot of stuff inside of Citadel. So imagine like you have like one place where you can store your assets, keep track of your portfolio. You can make staking and other stuff. And actually you have like pancake swap, sushi swap, Uniswap, basically Osmosis, like it's going to be our first showcase. You have everything integrated into one platform. So no need for you to jump between those, surfing the internet and jump between sites and changing your wallets all the time. You have like a kind of everything. So that's concept number 4. I believe like that's the best way to describe Citadel.one.
The GRTIQ podcast is made possible by a generous grant from the Graph Foundation. The Graph Grants program provides support for protocol infrastructure, tooling, dApps, subgraphs, and community building efforts. Learn more at thegraph.foundation. That's thegraph.foundation.
Hi, this is GRTIQ. Each week we get to meet a new member of the Graph community and ecosystem. The goal here is to take listeners inside the Graph by telling the stories and sharing the insights of those helping to build it. Please consider supporting this project by leaving a review wherever you listen to the GRTIQ podcast or by sharing episodes on social media. And don't forget to visit grtiq.com/podcast for detailed show notes. That's grtiq.com/podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for that overview, and I think that'll be helpful for listeners. A lot of listeners who are active on the Discord or in the Graph's Telegram and some of the different Graph community Telegram channels will be familiar with the Citadel.one team because you've got some pretty active members out there exchanging messages and communicating with members of the community. But I'd like to give you the opportunity to just tell us a little bit about Citadel.one's indexer operation at the Graph. Who's the team working on it, and what is it you're focusing on?
Yeah, thank you. So we have quite a big team in terms of crypto space. We have more than 40 members in our team. But if we'll talk about the core team, we have like about 5 people as our core members. And that's people who got involved in the project since the early beginning. And we had some transformations on the way, but like these core 5 members are from, again, like the start. And everyone, in my opinion, is a brilliant person and have a unique competence in his field. So we have 3 main co-founders, as you may see. It's like me, Anton Pavlutsky as our CEO, and Gregory Shabalov as our CTO. So that's like 3 core members. Then we have Dmitry Shekhovtsov, who is our COO, and Rina Stedler, who is our Chief of Marketing. So that's it. And you can see the rest of the team on our website. We have a lot of guys as our development team. We'll talk about the structure. We have separate development teams as our front end, as our back end, as our networks team, who is focused on adding networks constantly. We have a team which works on extensions parts, and then we have a marketing team which has its own kind of structure, but I think it's not necessary to dive deeper into that.
Citadel.one, as you mentioned earlier, it's involved with between 20 and 25 different proof of stake networks, and the Graph just happens to be one of them. I'd love to get your opinion then, based on your knowledge of the different networks in crypto space. What makes the Graph different, and why your team decided to participate in the community?
If you're working with a lot of networks, you can classify crypto space. At least that's what we are trying to do inside our team. And if you will ask me, I believe we have layer 1 protocols, which is like Bitcoin or Ethereum or basically Cardano, Solana, just any layer 1 solution, which allows a lot of dApps to be built on top of that. Then we have some kind of layer 0 solution, which are Cosmos and Polkadot for sure. And then we have like a middle layer. So Graph, it's like the example of a middle layer protocol solution. It's a kind of a protocol which like connects everything and provides data like for all those other layers. And again, like in physics, we have like gluons. It's like a subatomic particles which glue all the stuff together. And like the best possible comparison I can provide, it's like the graph is what is gluons for subatomic particles. And of course, it is different from other middle layer solutions such as oracles. Link is the most popular one, then some others. But unlike them, Graph is providing a kind of decentralized APIs. And I believe like it's quite rare how to say network, because if you ask me, I cannot name you like the second one which do the same stuff which Graph do. And for us, it was like a no-brainer to launch a Graph indexer node, because we're trying to get to those which like those solutions which we believe would be like the essential part of the coming Web3 world. So Graph, in my opinion, like is unique and very important in that sense.
Well, I love the analogy of glue. I've never had anyone use it before, but it's indeed true. So many of the guests have talked about how important the graph is as a piece of infrastructure to just about everybody else participating in the crypto space. In your opinion, Alex, how important is the graph to fully realizing the potential of DeFi or even Web3 for that matter?
Yeah, it's another great question. I can, address here like the example of Citadelone, because actually what we do, we are running full nodes and as a validators. And as long as we have like a working platform, we are parsing some data from that nodes, right? But we are passing not all the data, but let's say like balances and like trading volumes, some just some part of information, not like the all information from blockchains, but some databases we have then. But actually, what Graph allows you to do, it allows you to create your own subgraph if you require some part of unique information, perhaps like if you can remember CryptoKitties, I like that as an example. Like perhaps I'm a kind of application which allows my users to collect, breed, or do whatever with those kitties. And perhaps my users would like to know what kind of kitties were born from like November last year to like January this year, right? And it's if you will try to find that information on Ethereum blockchain, you will have to go back block by block, checking those kind of information, and it's really inconvenient. But with the graph, I can create a subgraph, and someone will take and index that information for me, right? And I will provide like the instance answer to my users. They will be able to get that information like very quickly by request. And I believe we will have a lot of, use cases for Web3 data in future, just a lot of. And we can do that in a centralized way, because we cannot imagine all types of requests people will be requiring. And Graph is like the best possible solution for that, because again, anybody can write the subgraph and deploy it on the network, and someone will take and index it and provide that kind of information. And in future, I believe Citadel as well will, deploy its own subgraphs or use existing ones, because we will have like built-in depths in Citadel. So we need that information, because again, we cannot do everything ourselves.
Great answer. And I appreciate you sharing your thoughts about that. So at the Graph, validators are called indexers, but more broadly in the crypto space, an indexer would be probably referred to as a validator. And I'm sure there's some nuance there that I'm missing that makes those things different. But what are some of the challenges facing validators right now in the crypto space? And maybe even an additional follow-up question of what are some of the best opportunities?
That's a tough one, because like the obvious big problem for the whole proof of stake space in general, it's centralization, because I guess it's like in the people's nature to vote for kind of big guys, if you know what I mean, right? Because it's just like a psychology. It's totally fine. But what it creates a kind of disturbances. And I've read a report from Figment, I believe, back in 2020. And if I can remember numbers like more or less correctly, according to that report, top 3 exchanges such as Binance, some others, they controlled about like 20 to 25%, basically every proof of stake network, right? So it's like not the way to go, because like unlike in proof of work models, in proof of stake, we need just like 33% of voting power to create like kind of problems for the network, right? So like the more decentralization we have, the better. And it's like the problem not only for the graph. And I know for sure that there are a lot of talks in graph community right now about centralization. It's like the problem for the whole proof of stake space in general. Then I don't know. I believe we are still very, very early in the space.
Well, I want to go back to something you said earlier, and you're right. It is a topic of conversation within the graph community right now, this idea of keeping stake decentralized. And as an indexer, you have an important perspective on this issue. So I guess I'd like to ask you, are you as an indexer at the graph concerned about keeping stake decentralized? And if you are, what are some of the ways you think of proposing how to make sure that happens?
We are quite like a small indexer for the moment. We have a lot of ideas how to change that. And one of them is integrating Graph into Citadel. We will do that this year. And from our experiences, as soon as we are adding something into the platform, it gives us a lot of value. But like it's not about us; it's about decentralizing the space in general. And I know like that big indexes like Pigments, like P2P, they are like talking about it. We had previous experience in Cosmos ecosystem, and guys like I'm sorry, I cannot remember that right now, but like they are quite a big indexes in Cosmos ecosystem, and they redelegated part of their stakes to the other smaller indexes. Like that's the way to go, but again, like it's freedom of choice for those who participating in the ecosystem. If you would ask like my own example, we are the biggest node in Secret Network right now, and we actually what we decided to do, we decided to raise our fee, right? Just to encourage people to delegate on other nodes. It's a kind of more open market mechanism, if you like, right? Like the pure economy, people may consider like what is cheaper or what is more profitable for them. So it's another way to go, because again, in crypto space, people are not realizing they're dealing with real valuable asset, because like it's a coin, you have an idea that it has a kind of economic value, but again, like you are more flexible in terms of delegating when you're like trying to understand how much you will get from this indexer and that indexer. Today people they will go rather with the name which they know, like a big guy, and they will earn less rather than, in their opinion, they will take additional risk and delegate on someone whom like they do not know very well, but earn more. I think in future market will come to some kind of average fee like we have on a bonds market, because like the best example for me, like I would compare proof of stake space with the bond market, because it's a kind of fixed income market if you would look from the perspective of an asset, right? Because in bonds it's like a fiat, like dollar or euro or some other fiat currency, but in proof of stake, like the base assets, it's like the coin itself, like Graph, right? And you will make your math and understand that you can earn more here than delegating another indexer. Hi, this is Alex Falko, and I'm CFO of Citadelone, and we are indexers at the Graph. If my conversation with the GRT IQ podcast has been helpful to you, then please consider supporting future episodes by becoming a subscriber. Visit grtiq.com/podcast for more information. That is grtiq.com/podcast.
GRTIQ podcast.
Thank you for listening.
Roger that.
Alex, I always like to ask indexers for their opinion and counsel to listeners who want to delegate with indexers, how they should go about the process. Because it's one thing to learn or try to understand which indexers you should delegate your GRT to by reading Twitter posts or going online, but it's a lot more interesting and I think also valuable to hear it from the perspective of indexers. So What is your advice to delegators when it comes to choosing an indexer?
Yeah. Okay. Like, first of all, I would consider query fee cuts, right? Like, I would consider how much I would get as a delegator, because like, after all, it's like a matter of money or income, right? And you should consider risks for sure. And like, as I told before, the main obstacle here, in my opinion, is a pure psychological one, because people are more comfortable with the names which they know something about, right? And usually those are quite a big like names. But in any case, I would consider like the pure math, and like take, at least I would split my delegations in several, batches, and delegate on a basket of indexes rather than on a single name. Like, that's like point number one. Then I would consider what value does this index add to the project in general. I mean, how is it involved in the community life? How well is it voting for various kind of proposals, right? I mean, like, the engagement in general. If we can make that as a metric, which we can measure, then I would measure that and take that into my equation as well. It's point number two. And point number three, perhaps it's some kind of personal preferences or whatever.
So as somebody who has chosen a career and even started a company that really functions in the staking economy, what's your long-term view of how the staking economy and all these networks will have in the world?
Okay, right now, from my personal experience, everybody, at least in Russia, is trying to be a miner, right? Everybody holds some piece of hardware on their balcony, in their garage, just whatever, and everybody is trying to mine Bitcoin, right? Today, it's a kind of, I don't know, a movement, but I believe that we are too early in the crypto space right now, and the broader world, like the people in general, they are not realizing that proof of stake is so much more better than and effective than like the proof of work mining, because it allows you to hold the asset exposure and to get something out of that asset exposure with just your laptop and like a software solution. It's much more effective than buying some piece of software hardware like video cards or like ASICs for mining Bitcoin, because in that case, your asset exposure is the hardware itself. It's not like the base asset is Bitcoin. And then only you are getting your income in Bitcoins, which you are trying to convert into fiat currency or to hold Bitcoin. I don't know. But in case of proof of stake networks, your basic asset exposure is the liquid asset, because you can undelegate it quite quickly, like even like 20, 28 days is you have in Graph. It's like much more faster than I would try to sell my hardware, which I'm using for mining, especially if the market is bad. I need to uninstall that to find like the buyer to sell it some way. It will take like forever. But here you can, unstake and sell almost immediately. So my idea is that the world do not understand what is staking for now, and we will eventually come to that understanding. And after we will come to that, like another thing which I'm expecting the whole bunch of fixed income funds. If we are talking about like the big guys or big names, right? They will jump into the space, because like in a legacy finance, everybody loves fixed income, right? Because like the fixed income market, it's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest market in the world. And again, like it's just like the question of getting used to an asset and getting used to its volatility, because what prevents a lot of people and a lot of entities right now, it's like volatility, but everybody is starting to understand that if you're living in the crypto space where cycles are much more faster than in the real or legacy world, like it's a normal thing, and perhaps some funds will start to get exposure to proof of stake assets as well.
You brought up fixed income, right? And I think that's a really good point. No one's ever made that point on the podcast before, but how maybe some of the Goliaths in the legacy financial world in the fixed income space will get involved. Do you have more to say on that topic?
I can give you like the different angle of view. It's a really cool one in my opinion, because like if we would check right now the boomers, right? It's like the most, it's a lot of people because they're boomers because of a baby boom, and they hold like the majority of assets, but they're starting to pass away, and they're like transferring those assets to the next generations. Like it's a natural process. And I don't remember where I saw that, but the estimation is that about 20 trillions in assets will be transferred from baby boomers to the next generations in the coming decade, right? So what we are about to witness, or what we are already witnessing, it's like a younger generations of people are getting some kind of, assets where they can expose somewhere. And those people, they are very different from their parents or grandparents. And crypto space in general, it's like a way to go by default, because like all my friends who are not very involved in economy or not very involved in crypto, they do not hold any other assets. I mean, they have like their home as an asset, if you can call that this way, that they do not hold any stocks, any bonds, nothing else, but everybody holds crypto, right? It's a kind of like a phenomenon nowadays. And if we will check that like transferring or transfer process in general, like a lot of people are about to get like a lot of money and they will invest them somewhere. Like, and again, it's if we have like a kind of a demand from a lot of people on something, I believe that's like corresponding financial products. They're gonna be created by the very same companies which providing like a kind of fixed income legacy exposure nowadays. And like even today we can see a lot of names like Fidelity, like BlackRock, like whatever. They're creating crypto departments. They're starting to provide crypto services to their customers. So after all, it's about demand. And if we will witness like a huge wave of demand for fixed income proof of stake assets, I believe that we will have an offer from those legacy institutions.
Alex, you've been so generous with your time. If people want to learn more about you or the things that you're doing at Citadelone, what's the best way to do it?
The best way is to go to our website and to try our platform immediately, because like on the top right of the website, you can see a platform button. You can click that, and it's a kind of a regular onboarding process. You need to write down your seed phrase if you would choose that option, or you can connect your Ledger device, and then you are good to go. You can try staking, you can check our interface, you can try out a lot of other stuff which are coming later on this year. That's the best way.
This has been a production of the GRT IQ podcast. For more information, including detailed show notes, visit grtiq.com/podcast. That's grtiq.com/podcast.
Please consider contributing to this project and helping build the community by subscribing and leaving a review.
GRT IQ
Podcast. Roger that.